How powerful of an effect is muscle memory?
Great question. It's difficult to overstate the effect of muscle memory. It is an incredibly powerful effect, especially the longer you've trained, the more of a thing this is. Don't you dare get upset or down on yourself when you have to have a layoff of training, because it will come back so god fast.
How much strength training does the average person really need just to get the strength, mobility?
So like if you do 3 sets of work for your quads 2 times a week, and each one of those sets is pretty hard, close to failure, you can do that for literally years and see continued radical improvements and just get really, really great results. But if you want to make an awesome body transformation and get incredible health, incredible strength, incredible mobility, finally get some blood in your cock. Am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah. That's okay.
It just
Thank
happens.
God. You really just have to do like 2 to 4 sets per muscle 2 times a week. Go pretty hard. You're going to get incredible benefits.
A lot of us, we don't do what's optimal. We just push what we can tolerate. And so we're in the gym more than is necessary to the limits of our ability to recover. And we think that's what's necessary to look the way we do, when oftentimes you scale back even with that person and they get better gains from doing less.
For many people, they are 100% to your point, pushing it way too far. It's just a matter of figuring out, why am I doing this? Or am I doing this shit for vibes and because, my dad didn't love me when I was between the ages of 7 and 10 or some shit like that?
What are the demons you're trying to fight or sort out? Or like, where are you at with your own personal journey?
Fuck, that's a hell of a great question.
Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Sorry I couldn't make it in person.
Yeah, no problem. In fact, we just off air learned that you just had some surgery. You have to take 6 weeks off of training, which you're probably going to lose all your gains.
Of course, that's how it works.
That's the fear. This actually leads me to a good question or a good topic, because you're obviously heavily muscled. You've been training for a long time. I think you said off air was the longest you'd ever really taken off of training was like a week and a half. So you're very consistent. 6 weeks off doing nothing because of surgery. Of course, you're going to lose some muscle, but you got muscle memory. And you talk about that. For how powerful of an effect is muscle memory? What does the data show on how quickly you can gain back muscle once you've built it and then you lose it?
Great question. It's actually difficult to understate. It's difficult to overstate the effect of muscle memory. It is an incredibly powerful effect. So if you have trained, especially the longer you've trained, the more of a thing this is. But if you've trained for years, especially, and you've gotten to a certain level of muscularity, and you've been at that level for a while, when you don't train for however long and you lose however much muscle, what ends up happening is when you got much bigger, you increase the size of all of your muscle cells. But if you get much bigger than a moderate amount, you end up, during the course of your gain in size, incorporating satellite cells into your muscle cells. These satellite cells are basically just cell nuclei that kind of like come into the regular cell, and they help grow muscle, maintain muscle, and control all the functions of a muscle cell. It's kind of like if New York City, if Manhattan only had one fire department and one police station and one hospital for all 5 boroughs, it would be like ridiculous, and all the boroughs would burn down and everyone would die and the police would never get there, because it's just one nucleus for a huge area. Your cells work in much the same way. And so just like if a town or a city grows, it gets multiple precincts and multiple hospitals and multiple fire departments. As your muscle cells grow, these satellite cells incorporate into them and give them these multiple nuclei. The thing is, once you have a lot of nuclei in a muscle cell, once that cell shrinks down, the nuclei don't delete out, they just stay there. And so when you start training again, you have multiples the power to manufacture muscle protein, because the nucleus is what does a huge degree of the manufacturing and all the ultra structures around it. And so now you essentially have the equivalent of like ridiculous genetics when you're coming back. And so when you're coming back to regain that muscle, it happens unbelievably quickly. And if you've ever experienced this yourself, you're like kind of in awe. You're like, what the hell? So I honestly anticipate that worst case scenario, after about 6 weeks of training again from taking 6 weeks off, I expect to be about as muscular as I've ever been. And it's probably pessimistic because probably after about 4 weeks, I should be very close to my best ever. That's how fast it comes back. And this is such good news for people that have to take time off, because I think there is this very understandable misunderstanding that many people have, which is they think, okay, I train and I'm big because I train. And I've been training for 10 years and I've gotten quite jacked. And if I detrain for, let's say, a year, then I lose kind of a lot of muscle, which is like very true. And then however much muscle I lose, let's say I was pretty jacked, 200 pounds, pretty lean. And after a year of not training, whatever, motorcycle accident, whatever, I'm 170. What they do is they look back to when they were first 170, fucking 6 years ago, and they go, oh my God, it took me 5 years to get from 170 to 200. It's gonna take me 5 years again to put this muscle back on, but it really takes like 5 months. And so that is incredibly good news for anyone that's detrained, and it's news that's used in a really good way. And here's a good way to use this news. Don't you dare get upset or down on yourself or disappointed when you have to have a layoff of training, because it will come back so goddamn fast. And also because you're not pounding your joints into oblivion all the time and you're not pushing yourself through crazy hard workouts, both your joints and your mental aspects are going to be super, super refreshed. I mean, after 6 weeks of not training, I'm going to basically be restarting my training career psychologically and joint wise. And that's such a good thing. In the Eastern Bloc countries that were pretty good about formal periodization back in the day, a lot of times after a yearly cycle, or especially after an Olympic cycle, many of the athletes for about 1 to 3 months after the conclusion of, let's say, the World Championships and whatever sport they were at, they literally just disappeared and did not engage in the process of sport training in any capacity. They went on vacation. Well, back in the Eastern Bloc days, you couldn't leave the country. Had whatever kind of leisure time you have in communism. All the kind of good stuff. And then after a few months, they would start this long process of getting in shape again. And it was a long process simply because they didn't want to get hurt. But they could easily be back in good shape in 2 months, but they took their time. And then by the middle of the year, they were at regionals, they were at the equivalent of states and nationals, breaking records again. They would to the World Championships, they'd win again. As soon as Worlds were over, they would just take months off. It's something that we in the free Western world, because we're engaged in training purely voluntarily in almost every case, it's not like none of us are getting paid to fucking do this. We're doing this because we love it, and because, as far as I can speak for myself, I have a variety of psychosocial disorders about my body and so on and so forth, and a lot of rage to get out into these barbells. Fuck you, Dad. Shit like that. And then so because of that, we never really take a lot of time off, and because we're paranoid about it, we think any time off is going to fuck us up. But it really just reality is the very, very opposite of that. And I think that's just wonderful news.
Yeah, it is. And it's so incredibly powerful that when you experience, people have experienced it when they have a broken limb and they'll wear a cast, and then they take the cast off and like, oh my God, I can see my bones. And then without even training, the muscle comes back. I think it points to the protective effects that strength training provides that are unique to other forms of exercise. That's why we sell it so hard. Are you familiar with like the Colorado experiment? The popular experiment that Casey Viator was a part of with Dr. Arthur
Yes,
Jones?
that's when he never trained ever before or used steroids during the experiment, and he managed to gain 89 pounds of muscle in 3.5 days exclusively due to Nautilus equipment.
Yes. Now it was witnessed. People, I don't know if it was 89. It was a ridiculous amount of muscle, but
I think it was 60.
A big part of the story. A big part of the story was Casey Viator was sick and had lost a lot. Before that, he was a highly competitive bodybuilder. Lost so much muscle going into it, and then started training and maybe using gear. So he had the additive effect plus his genetics. So I think it might have happened.
Well, I just went through the 22 pounds in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an example. Obviously not as crazy as that example. But of course, everybody thought I was lying and all this bullshit. But it was what I knew was I was a competitor. I was a men's physique pro for years and walked around at 240, 5% body fat for an extended period of time. Since then, I've completely fallen off keeping that kind of muscle. And so over the course of the last 3-4 years, I've lost 50 pounds of muscle off my body. Still have a decent amount, but nowhere near what I had before. And then I had just coming off of not training for like a month or two, and I documented the process of building back. And I told the audience, watch what I go do. I'm going to go build 25 pounds of muscle as fast as I can. I did it in 4 weeks. I put on like 22 pounds. Wow. And nobody believed it. And the crazy part, Mike, is that I was doing 2 lifts a day. That's it. So not only does it, the period of time is so short, but even the volume and level of intensity that I had to do to get it back, it blew me away. I actually was really shocked. I mean, I went about it my best I could and was a little surprised at how easy it was to get it back. That's
another good direction I'd like to ask you, Mike, because one of the reasons why we have you on the show, besides the fact that you have a very colorful personality, very entertaining to watch.
It's a nice way to say it.
Yeah, is you communicate accurately, because we all have 2 decades of training clients. We worked with everyday people for years and years and years. When I hear really smart people communicating how much strength training you need for the average person to get, some strength, some gains, whatever, you communicate it the most accurately based off of what we've experienced. How much strength training does the average person really need to reap the kind of benefits that they're looking for? Not to be a pro bodybuilder, to get crazy, but just to get the strength, mobility, some of the health effects. Like, what does that look like for the average person?
It looks like a few sets per muscle group a few times a week is going to get you like a humongous fraction of gains. So like if you do 3 sets of work for your quads 2 times a week, and each one of those sets is pretty fucking hard, close to failure, you can do that for literally years and see continued radical improvements and just get really, really great results. Are they going to be your best results? No, your best results would be doing 30 sets per week. But the difference between good results and best results is like maybe double. I mean, the degree to which there's a hyperbolic kind of asymptotic relationship of how much work you put into how much jackedness you get is really impressive. A little sad for those of us who want to be exotically big, because it's like, look, if you want to get 20% bigger, you have to do 1.5 times the work. The fuck, that doesn't add up. You want to be twice as big, you have to do like 4 times the work. Like, oh, God damn it. But the opposite end of that is really good news. But if you want to make an awesome body transformation and get incredible health, incredible strength, incredible mobility, finally get some fucking blood in your cock. And am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah.
That's okay.
It just
Thank
happens.
God.
Yeah, you're good.
It's a family podcast. How dare you? So if you want all those amazing benefits and you want to look like TRT dad or whatever, you really just have to do like 2 to 4 sets per muscle 2 times a week, go pretty fucking hard. You're going to get incredible benefits. And that's such a big deal, I think, for most people to realize, because there's this thing which is very understandable, but people see pretty jacked people, pretty lean people, and they automatically assume that this is like a lifestyle, that this person doesn't do anything else. One of my friends, actually the COO of RP Strength, our company, he had already been working. He's been working since he was a teenager, like 3 jobs at the same time. This is a fucking workaholic, works all the time. And he really got in really good shape at one point. He's done this a few times in his life, but like very noticeable. Like lost a bunch of weight, gained a bunch of muscle. And he went over to a family function. And these are Azerbaijanis, right? Like Central Asian, Russian type folks, and very old world culture. And they noticed he was in great shape. And one of his uncles or whatever was like, "Oh, you look great." He's like, "Thanks." He's like, "I would do the same thing too, but I have a job." And Yasha's like, you think I don't have a job? Like, of course he didn't say anything because it's all respect culture. So, oh yeah, true. But it's like, oh no, like, well, I can't get in shape. I would need to like train 8 hours a day. Another thing I get all the time is, like when I'm in my fairly jacked look, I, travel a lot, talk to random people at airports. They just assume that it takes like hours a day. Like you guys, I'm sure get this question all the time. Like how many times a week do you train? Or like how many hours a day? And then they're looking for like, I train 12 times a week. Yeah. I train 8 hours a day. I like I treat my training as like a union job in the fucking 70s in Pittsburgh. I fucking clock in. I fucking get in the iron mill. I fucking clock out. I fucking look at my family all wrong and eat the fucking Salisbury steak while looking at my wife all wrong. Like, it's a fucking lifestyle. And the thing is, you can get a huge amount of gains doing fractions of that work. And I think a lot of people, 2 things, want to hear that because like, oh my God, like I can have these great gains and really only spend like 3 hours at the gym per week. But also I think some people low key kind of subconsciously don't want to hear that, because thinking that getting a better physique and getting much leaner and looking way younger and it's going to require some effort. Thinking that it requires so much effort that you will never be able to do it is a great like cope mechanism excuse to keep in your back pocket. Because when you look at that guy that's your age, but he's jacked and shredded, and you're like, well, I have a family and I have kids. And then you see he has like triplets he's walking with. You're like, fuck, that excuse doesn't work anymore. At least you can tell yourself you're a hardworking American. You pay taxes. Well, he's a degenerate that lives at the gym. Yeah. And the reality is like you can have most of what he has and spend 2 or 3 hours at the gym a week. A lot of people want to hear that. A lot of people don't fucking want to hear that.
Yeah. Today's giveaway is Maps Aesthetic. If you want to win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. We also have a sale. Maps 15 Performance and the RGB bundle are 50% off. If you're interested, go to mapsfitnessproducts.com and then use the code MAY50 for the discount. Back to the show. The other part of it too, Mike, and I'd love your input on this, is a lot of us, we don't do what's optimal. We just push what we can tolerate. And so we're in the gym more than is necessary to the limits of our ability to recover. And we think that's what's necessary to look the way we do, when oftentimes you scale back even with that person and they get better gains. Mm-hmm. They get better gains from doing less.
Yeah. There's no way to figure out how you're going to get your best gains unless you experiment with training much less than you typically do, around the amount that you typically do, and much more than you typically do. And you do each one of these for weeks and weeks and even months if you can, and you very objectively analyze the result. In some cases, doing way less is the best. In some cases, what you figured out over the years probably works really well. And in many cases, good news or bad news is like, well, the more you do, the better you get. I have a friend who just, he's in his, it's Eric Helms. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's a natural pro bodybuilder. He's in his early 40s, and he just kind of discovered that like the more volume he adds to his program, the better he gets. And he's making objectively the best gains ever in his fucking early 40s. And he's like, man, it's like low key, I didn't want to figure this out because I didn't want to have to do this, but I love training and it's great news. It's kind of like, damn, I really do have to do 35 sets for my biceps every week. But for many people, they are 100% to your point, pushing it way too far. And it's just a matter of figuring out, I guess through mindfulness, if that sounds kind of lame, why am I doing this? Like, do I really believe that throwing up after every leg day is my best path to success logically? Like, I have to talk to ChatGPT and justify how I train. Could I do it in a way that makes sense? Or am I doing this shit for vibes and because, my dad didn't love me when I was between the ages of 7 and 10 or some shit like that? I didn't make the class 1 Pee Wee football team. I made the class 2 team, and I never fucking let that down. I'm never going to fucking hang my head down in front of another man. So you bet I'm doing 9 sets of hack squats today. I don't care if I have rhabdo every fucking workout. I'm a goddamn human adult male, and I will be granted my respect. If that's where the shit is coming from, like, listen, on vibes, dope, 100%. Dying in a fucking hack squat, what a goddamn honor. But on like optimality and getting the best results, then it's a different question. You have to experiment with yourself. It could be more, it could be less, it could be way less. And I always get a bunch of shit, in the comments, like with as many, it was a fucking ego move, with as many followers as I have, I don't want to comment. But, once you hit a certain level of bullshit, fake social media fame, the number of comments you get is like intractably large. And it's so many people, when I say like, hey, here's a way to train, here's a volume that you can do that science seems to show is kind of probably the best way to do it. I get a lot of people real fucking butt hurt. And number one reason they're butt hurt is they're doing some shit that's not bad, but they're really fucking emotionally attached to it. Yeah. Like it matters to them that they get to like I often say like training all the way to failure is typically unnecessary for your best gains. And in many cases, a few reps shy of failure is even better long-term sustainability wise. Yep. And like, I almost never hear a technical refutation. And I almost always hear like, you fucking pussy. Like you fucking, I was going to use another F word that might get you guys canceled. So it's a derogatory term for homosexuals. And like they say the shit and I'm just like, oh, I get it. Like you just have a lot of feelings. And for me, it really helped to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu because all the bullshit feelings I had about being a man or whatever got real sorted out when my 5th time getting knee unbellied by the fucking local blue belt. I had no more ego after that. But if you don't have that fucking combat sport outlet, I get it. Like you go to the gym and you fight your demons, which again is dope, but it's a very different question than what is optimal. And optimal could be a lot less and a lot less glorious than you want. And so those are questions you have to ask yourself.
Mike, where are you at in you know, this is so since we're here, and I've heard you kind of tongue in cheek talk about your drivers and your, you know, body dysmorphia and stuff like that. Yeah. Where are you personally at in your own journey with all your wisdom, your experience, obviously your level you've reached already? Like, what are the demons you're trying to fight or sort out, or like, where are you at with your own personal journey?
You see, my uncle, he got in the same bathroom as me when I was 4. And what happens? No, I actually enjoyed it, believe it or not. And that's the fucked up thing. I liked it, and people told me it was wrong. You know, but he was really good at his job. His job is like paid for it. Maybe he was paid for it. So, man, fuck that. That's a hell of a great question. You know. So like I don't actually have body dysmorphia on the technical qualifications. And I'm not saying I'm defending myself here. I am a fucking lunatic cocksucker with 50 trillion flaws. I am not anyone's hero. Do not look up to me. I will disappoint you inevitably. But like when people say, oh, you have body dysmorphia, they forget that like body dysmorphic disorder is like a diagnostic to statistical manual of mental disorders, diagnosable disorder. You have to meet certain conditions. Yeah. But we just don't. So here's a really good start to how to figure out if you have body dysmorphia. If you're objectively way bigger and leaner than the average person, let's say in your age group, and you don't think that you are objectively bigger and leaner and you resist accepting that, you might have some body dysmorphia. Now, this might come off cocky, whatever. I know I'm jacked. For the love of God, look at my head shape. It's ridiculous. I typically walk around at like 5'6", 230 pounds with like faint glute striations. How would it be fucking insane to think that's not like tank shit? Yeah. Of course it's tank shit. I actually had this one guy who worked at a gym, a security guard when I was a professor at Temple. Is only black people have certain phrasings that are just fucking unbelievable. He looks me up and down. He's like, man, you want some tank shit, huh? And I was like, I am on tank shit, sir. Thank you so much. So, you know, I don't actually think I'm not jacked. However, there are parts of my look I do not like. The love handles, fucking lifetime of combat against that. I finally was like, fuck it, I'm getting them cut out. That's going to be a big deal. And I have another, like one really big demon. I have yet to put a physique on the bodybuilding stage that I think is like, that's it right there. That is appropriately shredded and has all the things I like in a physique. I'm not trying to look like Dexter Jackson or some shit, Phil Heath. That's never going to happen. But have I reached my best look that I could? No. Do I have a hang up about that? Yeah, I'd like to do it. And so I'm still fighting the good fight. I'll be competing again almost certainly in 2026. Okay. I think I could have bigger arms. I think I could have bigger shoulders. But is it more of like, I already know I'm jacked and lean and this is just looking for like that extra? Yeah. Do I love my physique all the time? I'm not in love with it. So like, for example, now the love handles are gone, I look way better. But I also like genetically just have like a bigger gut. And like, I don't know if you guys have seen, like I can do this thing where I like relax and my gut looks huge. And then I can do a real legit vacuum pose in the next second. It looks kind of wild. Like, I don't love having a gut. I've had a gut my whole life. Am I like infatuated with that? No, I think it looks fucking awful. I think it looks objectively awful. Like, there's no one that's like, no, actually it looks great. Like that's bullshit. So at the same time, I have like ridiculous pecs. Like my pecs are like straight up obnoxious looking. I have humongous triceps. My quads, I haven't trained in a year because they got outlandish and threw off the rest of my physique. And to be honest, they barely shrunk. What the fuck? Okay, fine. So now I'm just going to like start training my legs again and full send the shit. Who cares? So like there's parts of my body that are fucking awesome and I love. And there's parts of my body that I don't love. It's like a marriage. You don't love everything about your wife or in some of your case, fellas, husband. I know y'all from California. That's how you do. And so just a guy, you know, at the bar, who cares? And you know, like it's a mixed bag. So do I have demons about the shit? Yeah. But they're like, you know, like they're not for real demons. I'm not like waking up in the middle of the night screaming, looking for my abs. No, you know, for my cock, absolutely. And it's usually the nightmare that's real because I can't find it.
So that was about as honest as somebody could have answered that question. Do
you guys want me to lie?
No, I appreciate
PTSD. You know?
I appreciate. Yeah. So okay, I love that answer. What does that balance look like with your personal relationships, your business? Like, is there anything like that do you see yourself like, okay, I'm going to reach a point where it's like, I'm good. I've presented that physique, and then maybe I'm going to cruise, or like, how does that all work? Like, how's the balance of relationships, family, business work with this obsessive, I'm going to go become a monster still?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this past summer, I had planned to do 4 shows. I did the first show as a tune-up show. I didn't look that great. And then right after that show, I realized that with the amount of steroids that I was taking and the amount of really huge degree of focus that you have to do prep, especially multiple shows in a row, I was going to be passing up a lot of opportunities in like the YouTube Insta famous land. And that's when I was like blowing up fucking like crazy. And I was having like all these invitations to go on these crazy ass like Diary of a CEO type of podcasts, like a gazillion views. And I'm like, well, fuck, man, either I continue to compete right now or I put the shit aside for now and focus on the YouTube shit. Cause like glory's dope, but like money, it comes around, these opportunities come around, they may not come around after. Like, you know, man, it's like there's like movies every now and again in which like this person is like trying to become a singer-songwriter and they go through these trials and tribulations and they finally have their crazy audition and like, you know, typically like the people signing them to the record label are kind of cocksuckers. They won't let them do it. They somehow get the audition, they blow it out of the water and the record label's like, do you want a deal? And they're like, nah, I'm good. It was just to prove that I could do it. And they walk off. My Jewish ass, I'm like, motherfucker, are you out of your mind? It's a $15 million record deal. Are you crazy? Where are you going? Someone bring that bitch back to sign that fucking contract. You must be out of your mind. So when this whole YouTube bullshit happened, I was like, oh, fuck, I'm like junior league famous or whatever. I was like, I'm going to milk this shit out for everything it's worth. So I had to take a step back, take way less gear, focus on more like balancing my physique instead of just training everything for size. And so that was a big deal. And then in addition to that, like, you know, being on tren and shit, not exactly good for my relationship with my wife. And so I was like, okay, that ship has sailed. Now I'm coming back into my physique phase, but it turns out that I came basically back to TRT and I functionally lost almost no muscle and I was fucking blown away. I was like, oh my God, I've been taking way too much gear for so goddamn long. And so that was like, I would have never figured that out had I not backed off. So now I'm going to be coming back in the competition and I'm basically going to take no more than like 500 mgs of total gear. And I know for a fact I can put a physique on stage. It's like 210 pounds fucking shredded. Like the shredded thing, we'll see if it works out. That's aspirational. But like muscularity wise, no problem. No problem. And so I'm going to do that. So luckily the trade-offs aren't as big, but next time, so then 2026, when I hope to come back to bodybuilding competitively, I'm going to have to carve out a lot of time from my day away from work, and to really do the thing right. Because like there's a reason they call it professional bodybuilding. There's actually two reasons. One is you have a pro card from whatever federation you're competing in. That's reason number one. Reason number two is you are a professional athlete, which means that's what you do. Yeah. You fucking don't, you have some, you know, commitments to your sponsors. You post some fucking TikToks for them every now and again. You wear their t-shirt to the gym, but that's it. You play PlayStation, you bang your toxic Latina girlfriend and you just fucking train and you fucking go to sleep. And that's what you do. And you eat your meals. That is a reason. It's not that the guys are lazy. It's that like you need everything possible to recover as much as you can. That requires trade-offs. I was kind of trying to do it all at the same time. Yep. I had pretty decent results at everything, and then decent isn't good enough. Yeah. And so for me, next time I come through a competition, I'm going to have to lessen the shit for a little while and then come back into it. But as far as will I ever want to back up and focus on other stuff, like I could tell you yes, but what I want to look like and what I look like now are far enough apart that until and unless my health just throws the middle finger and is like, nah, you're done, I'm going to try to improve my look. Like I want significantly bigger arms and shoulders. I want a wider back. I want bigger upper pecs. And my legs are good now, but they'll probably get bigger anyway just because this is what they do. And so I can improve my physique. For me, the most important part of working on my physique is the art. It's the science and the art of actually doing it. Yeah. I don't give a fuck. Like competing is whatever. I'm not a big fan of competing. I've won my class in shows before. It was no more fun than losing my class. You stand around, you look at everyone's cock, you like 30, 40 minutes later, you don't have a pump anymore. They say you're going up on stage. Whatever. It's fine. Competing is fine. And a lot of people love it. And I'm trying to get into the mode where I love it. But the thing I love most is improving my physique and eating the meals and getting the sleep and knowing that I have a purpose. And I treat my body as a sculpture and I'm always trying to improve it. Am I going to be able to give that up? Yes. Do I want to give that up? Not really. Are there drugs already in the pipeline that are going to allow us with no anabolics whatsoever to radically go a fuckload of muscle and get super lean? Yes. I could talk about those. I'm waiting for them shits, because when your boy gets his hands on that, I'm going full send. I want arms that are more inconvenient to live with now. Like now, if I sleep on my side for long enough, my arm goes dead because my delts and arms are big enough now, the way it cut off their own circulation. Fellas, I'm trying to get the whole shit. I'm trying to get my arms amputated because they're so goddamn big. That's when I've considered it fucking success. Is that body dysmorphia or not? I can't tell.
True 1%. Is that so? 1%. What drugs are you talking about? Are these myostatin inhibiting drugs? Are they
correct? Correct. So there's a drug that just passed primate trials, and it's a dual agonist. Dual antagonist. It antagonizes myostatin. Myostatin is the molecule that exists in all of your skeletal muscle that caps your muscle growth. Myo is muscle, statin is stopper or blocker. And man, the Latins really did figure all this shit out. And so basically that is a hugely powerful molecule that if you uncork, you just fucking grow muscle all the time. If you guys listen to this podcast, Google like double muscle mouse or muscle greyhound or muscle cow. You're going to see pictures that you're like, what are they fucking, what steroids are they feeding these things? None. And they don't train, and they have as much muscle as physiologically possible given all their other genetics. But there's more. There's another compound called activin A that also antagonizes muscle growth. And so this dual agonist, it antagonizes myostatin and alpha activin. So these are blockers of muscle that these drugs uncork, they unblock. And the recent study that came out on these was, let me try to summarize the study really quick. So they had 4 groups of monkeys, and they gave them all the fucking plague virus, and they just released them into New York City. Wouldn't that be sweet?
Oh my God. Wow.
After Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman back in the day, I can never see research monkeys the same way. Keep them fucking demon monkeys the fuck away from me. However, so group number 1, this is a 20-week diet they put these monkeys on, calorically restricted to a decent amount. Group number 1, they just did it natty monkeys. You know, they're real proud of themselves and shit. They talk about how they're natty all the time in monkey language. But the other monkeys, they just gave them semaglutide. So GLP-1, classic. The other group, they just gave them the myostatin inhibitor plus semaglutide. And then the 4th group, they gave them the activin A inhibitor, myostatin inhibitor plus semaglutide. So 3 fucking vectors. And what they found was the group number 1, the natty monkeys, they lost almost no muscle and they lost a bit of fat. Group 2, the semaglutide monkeys, lost like almost double the fat, but like a significantly more muscle. Not a ton, but like you can tell. Group 3, that had the myostatin drug plus semaglutide, lost like almost double the fat that the semaglutide monkeys lost, almost triple the fat that the natty monkeys lost. And they lost about the same amount of muscle as the monkeys who were natty, which is to say almost none. So we're talking about a drug that you can lose like 2.7 times X the fat, but with 0 added muscle loss. Check this out. The triple monkeys, myostatin, activin, and semaglutide, they lost even more weight by a little bit. So basically 3 times the weight that the natty monkeys lost in fat. And they gained in muscle at the same time what the drug-free monkeys lost in fat.
Wow.
Wow.
Holy shit.
So let me put this really quick into common terms. I translated these numbers into proxy for like a 200-pound person at 20% body fat. If the results hold for humans, which they'll similarly hold for humans, especially if you adjust the dosing, the natty human would be like 2 identical twins. One twin, 20% body fat. After 20 weeks, he's going to weigh 200 pounds, 20% body fat. He's going to weigh about 192 pounds at about 16.5% fat. 20 weeks of dieting, drug-free. Cool, right? Cool. That's good, right? Janice at work notices and tries to suck your dick in the bathroom as usual. And then, but you're at work. Janice, get the fuck away from me. I got shit to do. And then the other identical twin, in this case, with the 3 drugs, started at 200 pounds, 20% body fat, in 20 weeks, would have gotten to 181 pounds, which is okay. He lost like 10 more pounds, 11 more pounds, cool. 6.5% body fat.
Wow.
You guys, this is coming. It is only one of the drugs that Regeneron Pharmaceuticals is working on. It's already a drug. They already know it works. It just has to go through FDA trials, and don't you fucking bet against this. All the other pharmaceutical companies are catching on to that shit too, because they realized semaglutide and all the GLP-1s and the GIP drugs that they have out now, they're unbelievable at helping people lose weight. The problem is people in a huge caloric deficit like that will lose some muscle. And you can't have older women and older men an obese population's losing muscle because it tanks their metabolic health. It makes them fucking unable to take care of themselves. That's no good. And so these companies have been working on these non-androgenic anabolics, these drugs that do nothing to do with steroids, no mood swings, no ball shrinkage, no yelling at your girlfriend and then crying afterwards and begging her not to leave. None of that shit. We know some of it's fun, right? Trend is fun. It said no one ever. And then, so none of that. These drugs are here. And they, in several years, probably 3 years or less, depending on the FDA regulations, will be hitting the market. This will change everything. And I can't fucking wait because your boy's going to get fucking nonsense arms.
Yeah. The motivation behind this has got to be the GLP-1s because those are blockbusters. They're changing. They're shifting culture. And
huge money maker.
Yeah, the motivation before was for things like muscular dystrophy and muscle wasting disease, which is a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal from a market perspective, like the obesity. So we're basically going to reach the exercise in a pill, mythology that people, will bring up with those combinations. Are there any downsides to myostatin inhibiting drugs? And because you're not working out, you're not getting fit, you're just building a bunch of muscle. Do you still get a lot of the same effects? Insulin sensitizing,
Yes.
Okay, but are there any downsides? Why does myostatin exist in the first place? Like, one of those like it's natural, therefore it's good type of deal. Are they seeing any negatives?
2% of the people become insane and homicidal. It's maybe just a chance. I'm kidding.
Roll the dice.
Oh God, the CEO of Regeneron's like getting. I think all CEOs have like one of those old revolvers in their fucking desk that they take out to end the whole thing when the stock goes down. So that's what's happening. There's a reason that myostatin exists, and all of the other related compounds exist, and that is because muscle growth is two things in the natural evolved environment. At some point, totally fucking useless, because take Ronnie Coleman in his prime. What exactly is the adaptive value of being 287 pounds of 3% body fat?
None.
You're not really any better at hunting. You're not going to be picking fucking pear trees any better to gather the shit. You don't weave baskets any better. So in a typical human evolved environment, it's just fucking pointless. And the second thing is, it is metabolically insanely expensive to build muscle and to maintain muscle. And so your body evolved in an intermittent starvation environment. Sometimes there was food and sometimes the fucking buffalo herd didn't zig by your village and half of you fucking starved to death. And so the body is incredibly efficient with its calories, such that, and you guys know this from personal experience, when you work out a lot, you get really tired and you sit around a lot more and your body doesn't even let you lose more weight. There's a reason it's really hard to diet off a bunch of weight, because your body's just not interested in the shit. It's really economical. If we uncork the muscle growth process in the wild, we start to divert so many resources to muscle growth that we just don't have much food. Then you're fucking pretty jacked, you're pretty shredded, and you're dead on the side of the road because you couldn't fucking, your liver that can't fucking get enough calories to operate. The good news is we have capitalism and fucking grocery stores, and we're all by historical standards hyper fucking rich. And so because we have infinity food now, there may be no functional big downsides. Now, of course, there's going to be some adverse effects, like that with every drug. There's going to be some people that just don't take to the shit and they have some bad downsides. But on the whole, you're likely to see a side effect profile with these drugs that you do with semaglutide and tirzepatide. There's some shit, and if you take it wrong, it fucks you up a little bit. But on average, almost everyone tolerates it really well, and it's probably healthier to take the shit than not take the shit. One really cool thing about the GLP-1s and the GIPs, more and more research shows that regardless of if you lose weight with them or not, they have 10 incredibly beneficial overall health and metabolic effects. These are fucking wonder drugs, you guys, to be used responsibly, and they can have downsides, but if you figure out the dosing and figure out your diet, for most people, these drugs are awesome. So myostatin inhibitor drugs, the activin inhibitor drugs, and I'm sure the fucking 8 generations of even better versions of those that are coming up afterwards, it's going to be one of those things of what's the downside of Viagra? You see slightly different shades of blue and your head kind of hurts and your nose is puffy, which is a problem because if you're doing cunnilingus, how the fuck are you supposed to breathe through your nose and your mouth at the same fucking time? This is the only problem. Otherwise, your dick just gets engorged and you're out there slaying, fellas. So, you know what I'm saying? Talk some shit about Cialis. I'm not going to be here for it. It's a fucking wonder drug. We should have everyone on it.
Okay, so I want to circle back. I'll circle back to GLP-1s in just a second, but you brought something up that I'd like to touch on, because there's a bit of a debate in the fitness space around reverse dieting or, strength training for fat loss, because we can see a metabolic boost type of deal. Now, we trained people for decades. I've reverse dieted people. I've used strength training. For me, it's always been the most effective way to get fat loss for the average person for multiple reasons. But what are your thoughts on reverse dieting? What are your thoughts on, being able to impact your metabolism in a positive way through building muscle or the strength training process? What's your opinion on all that?
I mean, it holds a lot of water. It's not fucking magic, but it also depends on how extreme it is. If you have a client who's 230 pounds and they lose 15 pounds, you don't need to do crazy protocols to get their metabolism backfiring. It's probably better than it's ever been. If you have a competitor who's gone down to 4% body fat, you can't even reverse diet them. You need to bulk them out of that.
Yeah.
Like, one of the big myths with reverse dieting when it came up was people realized it worked pretty well. And so a lot of competitors were like, oh my God, if I reverse diet out of my show, I can stay 5% body fat and gain back all these benefits. Like, no, you just can't stay at 5%. You got to bulk your way the fuck back up out of that. But if you are adding lots of muscle to your body over time, and if you are careful to not crash your metabolism during a diet, or you slowly weave back in some junk foods and just increase the amount of healthy food, you're going to get a lot of really, really big advantages that are way, way better than the kind of quote unquote traditional method of dieting, which is don't weight train, don't put on any muscle, starve yourself for a while. You guys remember shit like the cabbage soup diet, dumb shit like that, like shit housewives would do. They would just lose a bunch of muscle, lose a bunch of fat, and then just get right back to their normal eating. They would be really hungry, really tired, metabolism is slower. They would regain all their weight and then some. And then they would be, fall prey to marketers for their next fucking diet. If you properly reverse diet out of that and combine that with weight training, about 2 or 3 months after your last diet, you're down 15 pounds, you feel amazing, you look amazing, and you can totally sustain it. And if you want another run at it, you can do another bit of weight loss and kind of keep going. That long-term periodized approach to weight loss and management, including using resistance training to build muscle, I mean, it is 100% the fucking correct answer. Does everyone do it now? No. Are more people doing it than ever? Yes, 100%.
What about the metabolic boost and what the research? I'm familiar with what the research says, and when they compare a pound of muscle to a pound of fat and calories per day, it's very minimal in the research. But in my experience, and I've tons and tons of times I've had a client. She came in, she's reports eating 1,400 calories. I reverse diet her. I build only probably 5-6 pounds of muscle, but for that size of a girl, that's a decent amount of muscle. And now she's eating 2,600 calories and not putting on any body fat and staying lean or getting leaner. And it doesn't math. It doesn't add up to what the studies say. So do you think there's something more going on? Do you think what's the answer to that?
Yeah, there's like one answer that probably explains 80% of the variance. It's not very nice, but it's probably true. She was not eating 1,400 calories. The way that people report their diet is typically like how you tell your dentist. You guys go to the dentist, right? Clearly, you're all handsome men with great teeth. The dentist is like, you've been brushing and flossing? You fucking haven't. You've just been, you know what I'm saying? Like, is eating pussy a way of flossing? Yes. Then no. But, we're not great about it. Like, technically, the American Dental Association, I think, says, like, ideally you should brush and floss after every meal. Fellas, what? Yeah. Who the fuck does that? You don't do that. But when your dentist asks you, have you been brushing and flossing? A lot of us are like, oh, yes, ma'am. And yeah, like that's just how it goes. So when you seek out the help of a trainer, there's this kind of like, it's like going to a religious figure, like a pastor, and he's like, how have you been? And you're like, great, really trying to live a Christian lifestyle. And it's like, no, you haven't, dude. You're basically a professional gambler at this point. But when you talk to Pastor John, you're going to tell him a nice story. And so when people go to trainers, there's that halo effect where they like want to present their best case. I was working for a fitness company with my co-founder of RP, Nick Shaw. Him and I were working for a fitness company in New York back in the day. I'm not going to say which company it is, but they were basically like, it was a training company. They have regular people come in, you train them as a private personal training studio. And the boss was like, here's a worksheet. You can give them a little thing for nutrition. It's like a little mini diet. He's like, I'm going to tell you what's going on with diet. These people all are going to tell you that they eat in the following way. They're going to say they wake up and they have some eggs or some egg whites for breakfast and maybe some oatmeal They're going to say they either skip lunch or they have like a turkey sandwich or a salad with chicken. And they're going to say they have some fish and some brown rice and maybe a glass of wine for dinner. And they're all fucking liars. And I was like, holy shit, this is the real world. I was just out of college. I was like, God damn, he's talking about real people. And the thing is, like, he was a mean, curmudgeon-y Jewish man, but he wasn't wrong. And so 1,400 calories is some shit like on their good days, they 100% eat. And fuck, man, they might have 6 good days out of the week. But when that cycle hits of the fucking time of the month, or just like a fucking, there's like a, you know, Netflix special on the real story behind the Friends series, they don't want you to know, and it's a 5-pound fucking episode series, you're going to go and you're going to basically get Ben and Jerry right in front of you and you're going to tag team them motherfuckers. You're going to have 4 fucking pints of ice cream. You're going to have 8 cookies. You're going to cry a lot. Guess what gets the tears out? Lasagna works every time. You have fucking lasagna. You have pizza. You're so starved out from that whole week of dieting that you're like an insane person. And then, like, yeah, you can do damage. You guys, like, there are a lot of documentaries about how sumo wrestlers eat that typically people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they eat this many calories. I'd be like, have you been around a post-dieted sorority girl in college? I've seen that bitch suck up 12,000 calories in a matter of hours. No fucking problem. And so if you average 12,000 calories on Saturday with 1,400 calories the other 6 days, that maths, because then they're like eating like 2,500 calories a fucking day and they're just not losing weight. And then if you get them to train and you put on a good deal of muscle and you get them to move more, be more physically active and weight train, which is more calorie burn, then yeah, 2,650 is now what they're eating. And they're like, oh my God, it's fucking magic. But because you made them eat more healthy food through the week, they don't have this temptation to go eat the fucking kitchen sink every Saturday. And then their average really is 2,700 calories. And it really does work like that because you're right. It doesn't math and the muscle is not enough to offset it. Now, some of them are so fucking starved down, their metabolisms are actually lower. When you feed them more food, they actually burn even a couple hundred calories extra, but it's not 1,000 calories. And so between the metabolism resetting up a little bit, the teeny effect you get from muscle and the 80% of them just not gorging themselves every fucking other meal sometimes or every few days, that is what explains most of the variance. Because like I've dealt with clients like that. Sometimes you hear the darndest fucking shit. Like I had a woman be like, I eat like 1,200 calories and I can't lose any weight. And I'm like, no, like thermodynamics is undefeated. And I'm like, just tell me about your day. And it turns out she was like walking by, like she worked from home. She was walking by her living room and like getting her hand into the fucking pecans and almonds mix and just jamming it down her throat like 4 times a day and not counting that. Bitch, that's 300 calories every time. Are you out of your fucking mind? I had another client, no offense, former clients. She was like, I can't lose weight. I'm eating 800 calories. She wasn't counting fruit juice and she had it all day long. And so if the question is, are your clients bullshitting themselves low key with good intentions, or did like the founders of modern physics misunderstand thermodynamics? Man, you know, unless that bitch builds a fucking gravity canceling spaceship and is like, see, thermodynamics was wrong, I'm going to believe the fact that she's just cramming hot dogs behind my back, which is, you know, like it's fucking sobering, but it's probably true.
There's got to be something, there's got to be something to be said too, though, about, okay, now that they're exercising, they built muscle. Okay. That what it takes to maintain that muscle is more activity, more movement, more volume. They're also, you know this, when you're feeling good, you're healthier, you're just more active throughout the day. So there's probably a kind of 3 different things happening there.
And there's also, you know, if they become healthier, hormones can oftentimes change. Hormones can affect fat storage, muscle gain. And I do think the human metabolism is super complex. You know this, Mike. And I'm the data does show that your metabolism or energy expenditure with the same lean body mass, there's a range there. Your body can decide to become more or less efficient, which I think that explains the people who, because you get competitors or people who chronically train, chronically track, like orthorexics, and they're just over-dieted, overtrained. Yes. And those people, I've seen some radical transformations in their metabolism, but those are pretty extreme examples. And I think the metabolism is a little bit more mysterious in those particular cases. But I think it has to do with those 3 things.
For sure. And it's like, especially the part where they've been dieting for so long that their energy expenditure subconsciously is just way lower, is a big part.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest part because I think misreporting intake's still the biggest, but in some cases that reduced energy expenditure can be the biggest part. And in many cases, it is a large part.
Yeah.
And so not chronically dieting anymore, giving your body enough food to just kind of breathe free can be hundreds of calories difference. And I mean, like, it's really fucked. It's really sad because you can have like a whole 6-month period where you were starving yourself and you weighed 132 pounds. And then after 4 months of reverse dieting, you're eating like 500 calories more food per day on average, and you weigh 134 stable.
Yeah.
But you're like even the same body fat because you built back more muscle. What a ripoff to think, man, for months and months and months, I was needlessly starving myself, which is a big deal. That's why like it, I think we made up this term, but at RP, we made up a term called diet fatigue. Like months of dieting fatigues you in a big way, and it resets your body and your metabolism to work in a way that is very much against you. If you reverse diet intelligently out of that, you can have amazing, amazing results because you were in a state of incredible fatigue. And a lot of people just think that's how it is. And a lot of people live their lives like that, like supermodels and shit. They're always starving because for them, it's psychological. For them, if I allow myself to eat more food, I'm failing and I'm just going to be a fat bitch again like I was in 7th grade and no one's going to love me. And how the hell am I supposed to get free cocaine if I don't look like a model anymore?
Yeah. Well, by the way,
trying to pay for my Coke. That shit is expensive.
This episode is brought to you by Vuori. Go to vuoriclothing.com/mind pump. That link will get you 20% off. Back to the show. What I appreciate about you, Mike, is that you're speaking from a combination of education and experience. I could tell you've trained people. I can also tell you've competed as a bodybuilder, and I can also tell you're educated. Because sometimes what happens in the social media space with the science crowd that has never trained anybody, has never competed, is they just stick to the data and the science, which doesn't explain a lot of the experience. Which I think will eventually. I think that eventually the science will catch up to what bodybuilders have been expressing and what coaches and trainers have seen with their clients. I don't think the data supports reverse dieting in speeding up, quote unquote, the metabolism as much as what bodybuilders and coaches have seen. I think that that's why you get the pushback, is we see on one end what the data doesn't yet support, but I think the data will eventually catch up.
100%. And also most of the data is on recreationally trained undergraduates who are not diet fatigued.
Yeah.
And so, if you have someone diet down like 3% of their body fat and you show that reverse dieting doesn't make a big difference, well, yeah, no shit. But if they diet down 12% of their body fat, you may see some very different results. Most data is not collected on bikini competitors or anything like that. And if you do get data collected on that, you can see very, very different results. I think a lot of people who hashtag science, they just don't hashtag science that well. And so they forget that ecological validity is a thing, external validity is a thing, internal validity is a thing. They basically just read abstracts or read like the last line of an abstract that draws conclusions and assume that this like unanimously applies to every single case. And that's just wrong. It's just sciencing bad. Science is a small sliver into the truth, but it is not like this just giant telescope that shows you everything. So it's a huge part of the equation, but it's not a standalone, a thing you can rely on. And it's dope if you're a fucking pencil neck motherfucker and you've never lifted a lot and you can't look a woman in the eyes, even as an adult, to like do PubMed searches and jack off a lot and then dunk on stupid meatheads in the comments. It's dope. It's a cool vibe, but it doesn't get you all the way there to explaining all of the human variation you're going to see. If you've done the shit yourself, if you've competed, and if you've coached other people, you start to be like, man, the science makes a ton of sense. And in addition, there's all this other stuff from the real world that can super, super help figure a lot of shit out.
Yeah, like behavioral psychology. I mean, talk about, I'd love to hear, because you have a PhD, right? So were you at one point, were you the pencil neck nerd who was like that, all science, all study, or did you have a nice blend of experience and hands-on while also going through your PhD? Tell me a little bit about your personal journey of coming kind of full circle as a coach, of kind of knowing how to meld all the science with the psychology, with everything. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started out as a person who was good at science, like in school, but I hadn't read any exercise science because there was hardly any. And so I started out just doing meathead shit. And then I started learning more science because I was like, yeah, some of this shit sounds dumb. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And so I came into the science with a lot of my own preconceived notions and a lot of information, both from meathead shit and about how my own body was responding. But I hadn't really coached a lot of people yet. And then I started being very adept at the science, very adept at understanding my body, but I still hadn't coached a lot of people. And then as I coached more and more people, it's that third tier that probably helped me learn the most, to be completely honest. Maybe not the most. It was indispensable because you can learn all the science you want, and that's dope. It's actually the most straightforward part. Like if you're smart enough, reading all the science and understanding it's not that complicated. It's very accessible. Learning about yourself is just going to require like years and years of trials and tribulations. But a lot of people learn stuff about themselves. They just assume it applies to everyone else. And then you can really tell apart who has learned science plus learned a lot about themselves through experimentation, and then who's actually coached a bunch of people. Only through working with tons of other people, especially competitors, do I learn, oh, shit just doesn't quite work the same way that I thought it did. And so for me, the last thing for me to happen was coaching enough other people, coaching enough competitors, and then competing myself to learn like, oh, fuck, a lot of this does make sense. For example, a lot of the stuff that was I read in like Flex magazine and all the muscular development, all those magazines back in the day was advice that I thought nonsensical when I was doing it myself. I thought it was nonsensical when I read all the literature that I could. But then when I realized like, oh, there's a drug game and growth hormone is something you take XYZ times during the day. That's why these guys eat like this. That makes total sense. And so a lot of that stuff you just can't have access to unless you're in the thick of it. So there's a way to be a really good scientist. There's a way to be a really good practitioner. But I always have a lot of time, even if they don't know science, even if they don't train themselves, for hearing the experiences of like elite sport coaches, like someone like Hani Rambod, who has coached like dozens of Olympians basically and like thousands of clients. Like in Hani's brain is a lot of goddamn treasure from just seeing that many human beings go through a transformation process. It gives you a color to the world that you'll never ever see in your life. The analogy here quickly is like, the best communicator, the person that's talked to the most number of people is going to be amazing at talking to a bunch of different people. But there's levels to this. ChatGPT talks to like 600 million people every week. You can't ever beat it as a conversationalist. It just talks to more people. It's talked to fucking everyone about their wildest dreams, their craziest fantasies, their biggest nightmares. It's just a wisdom machine you can't beat on numbers. And so until you've coached lots of people and you've been around the process and you've done it yourself and you've read all the science, you can't confidently say, well, fucking I know it all. And of course, as you work with tons of people, as you do this shit yourself, as you read all the science, you realize, well, you know a lot, but there's always more to learn. And it, like, you know, people say like lame shit, like, oh, I'm a lifelong learner. Like, it sounds dumb. It sounds like something you say at an educational conference and then go have fucking refreshments afterwards. But 100% is a real fucking thing. There's always more to learn. And especially working with tons of different people, you start to realize, because real quick, while I'm on this rant, there are a lot of people that are really good at bodybuilding, for example, and they're gifted. Like, they're just fucking gifted. They just have fucking incredible genetics. And they'll tell you shit that they do, and you're like, that's ridiculous. It works for me. And then incels on the internet will be like, it works for him. You're not doing Yates. You can't say shit. But when that person tries to coach others, a lot of time it's a real bad deal because that person's like, oh, they're not responding how I used to respond. They got just a whole laundry list of problems. They're getting these side effects from drugs. They're crashing in the diet. I never used to do that. And a lot of times the amount of wisdom you can increase in yourself if you have good genetics is only be increased if you work with people that don't have great genetics. One of my biggest gifts ever, so to speak, was working with regular clients. Fuck competitors. Competitors are sometimes just the elite just cause, and you learn a ton with competitors, but with regular fucking average clients, middle-aged women, if you know your shit, you're going to get them in shape. If you don't know your shit, you're going to do nothing because it's easy to get a 22-year-old dude on steroids in shape. No fucking wonder he's 22
Who
and
will weigh
steroids do
every meal he'll weigh and he'll track too, right?
100%. He's completely compliant. He's best genetics, best youth, best everything, best drugs. Of course, you're going to get in shape. But when you work with a 45-year-old mother of two that's also a Wall Street broker and she's like Jewish and a dog shit fucking genetics, no offense, Jews, then like if you get her to lose 10 pounds and keep it off, you're going to have to figure some shit out. The way I learned about basically people fucking their metabolism up through dieting is with regular female clients in New York City. It was not with competitors. And you think like, how can someone have the amount of diet fatigue a typical competitor has after a 16-week prep in just 8 weeks of dieting? Genetics, man, it's a motherfucker. But you learn a lot working with people like that.
Let's go there. You just reminded me of like, I talk about this on our show a lot. One of the clients that I remember, the type of a client I remember helping a lot was exactly that. Maybe not Wall Street, but they were busy moms, under eating, loved the Orange Theory, boot camp classes, 6 days a week, couldn't lose weight whatsoever. So that what I used to call cortisol junkies, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
To swear that this is the workout they needed. And many times getting them to eat a little more, scale back their training, like half the days, long rest periods, and boom, all of a sudden this client who was training 6 days a week, eating so little, pushing their body, all of a sudden starts responding. What's going on there?
So much. One thing is getting them to weight train in a way that builds muscle starts to alter their physique in a way they didn't think was imaginable. But what they're after is to be leaner and shapelier. And the way you do that fundamentally is by losing fat and building muscle. And because no offense to Orange Theory, a lot of that cardio bullshit, it doesn't do a whole lot of that. In addition to that, cardio doesn't really do a whole lot of much for weight loss because your body just reduces your energy expenditure concomitantly and you just don't get a lot of it. It's healthy for you. If your diet is very set in stone, more cardio can help you lose a little bit more weight, which is meaningful for like competitors and stuff. But it's not this big thing. And probably one of the biggest variables is diet control. It means knowing what you're putting in your body by tracking / programming what you put in your body and then maneuvering from that. Because people will say, oh, I can't lose weight. I'm like, well, how much do you eat on average? Like, well, I don't know. Well, what the fuck? No shit. Like how theoretically would we be able to help you if you don't even know what's going in your body? So getting these people to eat 4 meals a day of high protein and some fucking veggies, knowing what they're eating, and then going, okay, we have your maintenance. Now we're going to crank it down by 500. We're going to have you weight train. We're going to track your steps. All of a sudden, fat melts off, muscle builds, because you're actually doing the thing for the first time. It's like people are trying to build like the Lego spaceship or school bus or whatever they got, but they don't look at the instructions on the fucking back of the box. They're like, it's not a school bus. No shit. Did you ever try looking at the instructions? They're like, well, I thought I could just figure it out. Like, well, that clearly didn't fucking work. And here's the thing. If you're some kind of genius savant, maybe you can figure it out. The big irony here is that as a busy mom who doesn't get enough sleep, whose diet is shit, and she's in her fucking late 40s, and there's no one in her family that had very good genetics to begin with. She is working completely at a deficit on all of these things. And so for her to get in remotely good shape often requires a level of intricacy and effort and organization of diet and training that's like damn near competitor level. And the thing that, that makes sense once you think about it. Like, well, yeah, if you have everything going against you, you're going to have to do your best to be as good as possible. So that is always kind of a little bit of a shock to people when they're like, wait, I have to do all the shit to get in shape. Like, yeah. And another thing that's crazy to me is this is understandable, especially with tech getting as good as it's getting. With tech getting as good as it's getting, you just expect things to work. Like if ChatGPT doesn't get back to me with a perfectly polite, incredibly intelligent answer in 3 seconds, I think there's something wrong with the internet and I start getting fucking pissed. And that is understandable because tech sets such a high bar. But a lot of people who have everything going against them, not so great genetics, a lifetime of doing nothing about it, they're in real bad shape to begin with, they have tons of stress, very little sleep, no organized diet, they somehow think that when they see a personal trainer twice a week and they take like one tip in their diet, like just eat more protein, Karen, okay, that they're somehow going to like accomplish the body of their dreams. And I had so many people tell me like, well, like, so my goal physique is like Jennifer Garner. I'm like, a perfect angel? Are you out of your fucking mind? Someone who's 27 years old and trains fucking 3 hours a day to look perfect because that's her job, is to look perfect. She's elite genetics. And as a private chef, that's low-key your goal. Like, how many people come into like a basketball camp and they're like, I don't want to be LeBron. Like, okay. Like Steph Curry, that'd be great. Could you get me there? Like, no, you delusional asshole. But with the way that the service industry works and the fact that you go to a restaurant and you're like, I want a perfect steak, and they give it to you in 15 minutes, I think you get used to the shit. And then you're like, you go to a personal trainer, like, I just want amazing results in almost no time. And you're like, no, bitch, that's not how the fuck it works. Yeah. It works by you pounding it in and being ultra consistent for months and getting decent results. And if you think you can do it better somewhere else, be my guest. Now, good news, combination of these weight loss drugs we already have now and these crazy muscle building drugs coming up, hey, the standards are going to elevate, but we're not there yet, and it's just going to take a lot of work. And so one of the things that always baffles me working with regular people is most of them are dope, but some of them come with these absolutely ridiculous ideas about what's going to happen and a total unwillingness to work for it with all the odds stacked against them. And it's just, to me, it was always kind of like, I was pretty good at real talking people. We're in like a polite way, but, you know, a little curt, a little humorous. I'd always be like, look, you want big changes. I'm here to tell you that J-Lo is unusual. Yes? They're like, well, I guess, yeah. So having her as your goal is kind of fucking ridiculous. They're like, I guess. Like, okay, so let's just try to get 10 pounds off of you in 12 weeks and put on a few pounds of muscle. And after that, if you're still with it, we're going to try to do a little bit better. What do you say? And then all of a sudden, they don't have these crazy goals. They're more realistic. They're much happier with their transformation because they didn't think they were supposed to be able to do it all in 3 fucking weeks. And then everyone wins. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when when trainers allow their clients to hold on to delusional goals and promise them a ton so they can get that $600 up front, and then inevitably the client quits halfway through and goes on to the next trainer.
Agreed. And I 100% agreed. And I think a big part of that also is just people are kind of redlining with stress anyway. And so adding a ton of exercise, your body not only is not going to adapt, it's going to try to survive and hold on to what it can. And makes fat loss very difficult. You're not sleeping well. You got kids. You're stressed out. You're going to add a bunch of extra stress on your body with 6 days a week of exercise, and you're not going to eat properly. Good luck. It's not going to work,
dude. Yeah. Let me riff on that really quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
There are so many clients who, again, have everything stacked against them, and they come to you with non-negotiables, and it's like, well, you can't negotiate against physiology. So you're just not going to get what the fuck you want. 2 non-negotiables that are, to me, crazy, but understandable, but also like it's your job as a trainer to weave clients out of these. One is alcohol. Like, I got to drink for work. No, you don't. Well, I go to these things where you have to convince the client to sign the deal. Yeah. You got to be drunk to do it. Are you out of your fucking mind? It makes you worse at your job. You drink because you like how alcohol feels. You like feeling drunk and you like vibing with clients and it's really fun. Yes. Yes. It has nothing to do with the demands of your job. Yes. Like, okay, fuck, no, it doesn't. Okay, great. And they're like, well, clients insist that I drink. Really? The fucking CEO of Oracle wants you to be fucking hammered at a New York restaurant at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Otherwise, he doesn't sign the deal. Are you out of your fucking mind? You're like, oh, you're just ordering like diet sodas. And they'd be like, aren't you drinking? You'd be like, well, honestly, I'm trying to do some like health shit and I got to like stick to the diet sodas. They're not going to be like, come on, that's ridiculous. You're going to be like, dude, that's really awesome. Good for you. And then you can work on fucking discussing the deal and all its technicalities. So that whole alcohol is non-negotiable. It's such a fucking dog shit 99 times out of 100. Like when Nick and I first got to New York, we just like revered these people because they're rich, they're successful, all the shit. They know what's going on. And a few months in, we're like, not that we lost respect for them. It's that we woke up to the idea that they're paying us to call them out on their bullshit. And we're like, oh, we're allowed to call you out on your bullshit. Stop fucking drinking. And they're like, God damn it. All right, fine. fine. As they try the shit, well, I have to. We're like, no, you don't. They're like, okay, I don't. You're right. I don't have to do that. And the other non-negotiable, it's also fucking bullshit. This one's a little bit more nuanced, is sleep.
Yeah.
They will be like, okay, so like I can't sleep but 4 hours, and that's just going to have to be how it is. And I'm like, dope. I can't give you hardly any results, and that's just going to have to be how it is. And they're like, are you joking? I'm like, no. I mean, yeah, but no, I'm not fucking joking. And then you have to like work with them. And this is actually a great part of being a trainer and a coach, is getting people to articulate their daily schedule and articulate why they can't go to bed at 9 p.m. and watch them tell you that like, well, like, I don't know, like, I just like to stay up with my husband and bullshit and watch trash TV for 3 hours and drink like 3 bottles of wine and order sushi at midnight. I got it. Do you want to look like what you told me you want to look like? Yeah. Take 3 months off of that dumb shit, have a fucking protein shake, go the fuck to sleep at 9. Aren't you tired? Well, yeah. Go to sleep. All right. But it's kind of boring. No shit. You know those people you look up to in the fitness magazines? They live the most fucking boring lives in the world. I remember once they asked Jay Cutler, like after his second Olympia win, what he was going to do. He's like, well, you know, typically, I like to party it up at the Olympia. So, you know, I normally go to bed at 9. And I think after the Olympia, I'll go to bed at 11. And everyone's like, what the fuck? What? That's crazy. Like, yeah, that's how he lives his life, like a fucking machine. You want to look like a machine. You do not have to live your life like a machine. But you're going to have to live 3 months of your life like more of a machine. And so when you say, I can't get any sleep, I know you're fucking lying, because you only work so long during the day and you just have a lot of entertainment built in. You're going to have to curtail that a little bit and start entertaining yourself in 3 months when you have the body. And good news, once you lose a lot of fat and you gain a lot of muscle, maintaining that look is like, I don't know, 5 times easier than getting it to. Then you can start having wine and fucking mimosas and the ultimate killer of female physiques in the big cities, brunch. There's no amount of physique progress one fucking brunch can't undo. I'm convinced of this shit. Because like the menu items in a brunch seem like they were made up just to see how many grams of saturated fat we can cram into products needlessly. Like it's like salmon. You're like salmon, but it's dipped in a fat reduction, and then it's panko crusted, and then a fat-based sauce is strewn on top of that, and it's dipped again in fat flakes. What the fuck? Like, oh my God, but you got to try it. It's so good. I get that it's good. You have to back the fuck away from that for a short amount of time. One of my colleagues, Dr. Melissa Davis, who's a fellow coach at RP and helped co-author a bunch of our books, she made a huge point of this a ton, where the diet, quote unquote, to get you in shape is not a lifestyle. It is temporary. And one of the things I used to love to do to my high, like elite clients, was talk that shit. Because they would be like, it's really hard to diet. I'd be like, oh yeah, no, for sure. You're totally right. Like, yeah. I'm like, So you never went to school, did you? They're like, I graduated top 5 at Harvard Law. I'm like, but that was easy, right? They're like, no, it's brutal. Harvard Law. I'm like, oh, so you're capable of doing difficult things for a short time, right? They're like, fuck you. You should have seen that one coming. Like, oh, dope. See you tomorrow on your diet. Like, oh, damn it. But clients a lot of times try to weave their way into the easiest shit that they can, which is understandable, right? Like you do this every day in every life. Like you're not trying to go out of your way on your way to work. You're trying to cut with your car the fastest route. But if you understand that all of the routes are blocked except for the difficult, and going down the difficult route is how you're going to get in shape. And then after that, you can back up to a maintenance lifestyle, live your best life, have your mimosas, dip your fucking salmon in whatever bullshit fat that you want, and still have that look, which is going to take 12 weeks of low key, some fucking effort and some restriction. You either buy it, you take the red pill and you do the shit, or you don't. And if you don't, you can just be like you were 5 years ago and like you're going to be in 5. Same shape you were in, making fucking bullshit excuses every time you meet a fit person. Dope. That's cool. I don't care. I think you look great either way, but you give a shit. So it's time for you to step up and do the shit or not.
So well said. Hey, you know, Mike, can you think of a piece of advice that you've 180'd on in your journey? I'll give you a big one for me. Like I started personal training when I was 20 years old. I'm 43 now. And I remember doing intake forms and asking the client, you know, what do you do for exercise right now? And they'd say things like, oh, I walk with my husband for an hour every day. And I would scoff at that. That's not fucking exercise because I'm doing the math of you're only burning this many calories and we got this far to go. That doesn't mean, and I would laugh at it. Yet I look at myself in my 40s. That's typically the very first piece of advice I now give to somebody. Well, what are we doing? Let's try and take a couple 10-minute walks a day. And so that's something that I used to scoff at as a 20-year-old, as somebody who's been training for 2 decades. It's one of the first things that I advise. Do you have some things like that you remember saying one thing when you were first getting into the industry to now you've completely 180'd?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Right. How long do you have? One is meal frequency. I used to think that if you weren't eating every 2 hours, you're just an idiot. And that eating 4 meals a day was not the way to get jacked. Like about 800 studies later and my own experience and tons of bodybuilders is like, oh, actually, if you eat 4 times a day, you're almost certainly covering all of your bases. That is a huge one. Another one is the if it fits your macros thing is something that works really well on paper. Like if you just combine whatever foods you need and get your macros, you're good to go. But it turns out that eating mostly healthy foods, like kind of traditional bodybuilding clean foods, is such a huge energy leveler and a huge reducer and controller of appetite.
Yeah.
Like if you have to eat a fuckload of broccoli and kale and a bunch of chicken and some brown rice, you're just not like, you're not going to overeat that shit.
Yeah, good luck getting fat on that.
100%. No one's doing it. And so the idea that like I can have potato chips and still succeed in my diet is cool. And if you ignore the temptation of junk food to eat more of it and you ignore the hunger signaling part, it works. But the hunger signaling and that shit is real. And so when I matured more in the industry, I realized, there's a reason that bodybuilders eat like they do, and maybe we should all be eating a little bit healthier with more protein, more veggies and stuff like that. Even though it's not sexy, it's not super convenient. Sometimes, if it fits your macros, great. For when you're in maintenance, when you're in bulk, and it's awesome when you're like, oh fuck, I have to get some food in me somehow. Let me just do macros. That's cool. But as far as like a sustainable thing that really causes change, eating meals that are high in veggies and fruits, whole grains, lean meats, healthy fats, all that bodybuilder shit, it really does produce results. And it's not a thing I want to admit. Like I wish we could just, protein shake and Snickers bar our way into better physiques. But unless you're fucking slamming a ton of semaglutide or something, it's much easier said than done.
I love that you said that. So one of the big waves that we made 10 years ago when we started this podcast, we actually made these shirts that were was Dunkin' Donuts, not Dunkin', is it Dunkin' Krispy Kreme logo, and it said our brand in the middle of it, and then it said IIFYM sucks, and it was right in the height of that being
asking for trouble.
Oh yeah, totally. But then this was what we tried to articulate, and this is again through years of experience. I realized what you just said is I could tell a client if you ate whole foods. I said we don't even got to track calories. Go eat it. I'd tell clients, go eat as much as you want, so long as it's these foods from this group. And I give them a whole list of meats and veggies and starches that you can eat and just be like, eat from that list. When you're hungry, eat. And all I want you to do is eat your protein first. And that's the only thing if we're going to track is that. And everybody lost weight. Everybody got in shape. As soon as I start to allow them to introduce processed foods, snacks, and quick things, and this is even sometimes the negative part of even like protein bars, because they're basically glorified Snickers bars. A little bit of extra protein is they were engineered to hijack that feeling that our body tells us to stop wanting any more food, and it just made it 10 times harder. So I love that you come out and you say that because, of course, if you've been a bodybuilder, IFYM is something that you've definitely, understand, follow. You've found a way to get your treats here and there or have your cheat day and make it work. But for the average person, never. It's a terrible strategy for most people. It really is.
I wanted to circle back to the GLP-1 for a second, Mike. What are you seeing on the other effects of the GLP-1s? Like, there's lots of reports of people who stopped smoking or not drinking anymore, or like interesting effects on maybe the hedonistic aspects of certain activities. Are you hearing about any of this?
Tons. Yeah. People, it just in many people causes a reduction in want generally. It fills that hole. It quiets not just food noise, but desire noise. And it's not a guaranteed thing. It doesn't happen for everyone to the same extent, but it is a meaningful effect. And so people will quit smoking by accident. They'll reduce or quit drinking by accident. Another thing is these drugs are insanely powerful systemic anti-inflammatory drugs.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly beneficial for almost every aspect of health. Another really great part of these drugs is indirectly foods that are very processed, that are very tasty, that are very high in calories and fat in a very dense package tend to gel very poorly with these drugs, because if you dump a fuckload of calories really fast in your stomach and you're on these drugs, you get sick because your gastric emptying rate is really slow. The food ends up sitting there and your body's like, that's not supposed to be sitting in there. I'm going to make you feel like you need to throw it up. And so it turns out that whole foods, foods that are pretty filling, and healthy foods just feel way better on these drugs than the alternative. And so it's kind of the softer nudging effect to get you to eat better. So a lot of people, you know, personal trainers and fitness industry people often have a lot of feelings about these drugs because they just have a lot of feelings about a lot of stuff. And so like, this drug's a fucking cop out, man. You got to earn this shit. I'm like, why do you have to earn it? You didn't design a microchip, but you use it every day on your cell phone, you hypocrite asshole. But that shit aside is they'll be like, people can just eat junk and fucking still lose weight. I'm like, first of all, what's wrong with that? And second of all, no, they can't, because most people will figure out that they really can't tolerate junk nearly as much. They feel worse eating junk than before. There was that like drug back in the day called Chantix or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like a smoking cessation drug. And if you tried smoking on it, you felt fucking incredibly awful and sick. And you're like, oh, fuck that. That doesn't work anymore. So low key, some of these drugs do that for food. And so they actually encourage a healthy lifestyle. They're crazy systemic anti-inflammatories. They improve your blood glucose control independent of weight loss. They improve your blood lipids independent of weight loss. There's tons of other benefits of them. They really are like kind of not panaceas, but like just ubiquitously really awesome for your health. And a lot of people have a problem with that, because they exhibit what's called the naturalistic fallacy, the argument from nature, that anything that is natural is good and anything that is artificial is bad. And it's just not true. There are some natural things that are amazing. Whole foods, good, clean water. That stuff is fucking dope. Sunshine and shit, children's laughter, all that bullshit. That's awesome. But then there's artificial shit. There's natural shit that's bad for you. You know, you don't see like a bear out in the wild and you're like, it's natural, it's fine, honey. Like, fuck that. Like, don't do that. Don't go over there. Snake bite's bad for you. If you think natural things are good for you, just go randomly eat berries off the fucking trees in the forest. Do not do that. You will fucking die. And the artificial shit, a bunch of it's not great for you. Junk food and stuff is fucking terrible, right? Especially in excess. But, you know, air conditioning's great. Antibiotics are fucking awesome. Vaccines are dope. And then like all of a sudden you're like, okay, so natural versus artificial doesn't work. I actually just have to go and find out what's good and what's bad. And it turns out some artificial things like these drugs are really just awesome. And I think we're entering a world more and more as AI especially starts to decode our biology and produce all these drugs that are incredibly awesome. You're just going to be in a world where if you stay drug free, you can be totally fine. But if you're on more and more of these advanced drugs, you're just going to feel, look, and be better overall. And I think embracing the very best that artificial stuff has coming for us is awesome. And there's nothing wrong with it. And it's just a matter of, are you doing healthy shit or unhealthy shit? And the shortcut of natural versus artificial is not a shortcut, because it just does not give you much information at all.
Yeah,
so let's play out, because I think we're totally aligned on GLP-1s. Now, let's say the muscle building, like let's say we get literally fitness in a pill in the next 5 years, and everybody can be fit by taking this pill, and it does happen. What are some of the downstream effects, negative, that you see? That it's obvious what's positive. I mean, the amount of obesity that will go down and health markers that will go up, and maybe we'll see even longevity. But what do you think? What else is fitness and training, working out, the discipline around it, the routine of it? What else is it benefiting us that we're going to potentially lose out on because we can now just get it in a pill? What do you see?
At least two things. One is your sense of identity and career. Lots of people in the fitness industry, and they might have to shift to doing some other kind of work because everyone's just fit already, Now the work can be fitness industry adjacent. Instead of like taking people through sets of squats in the gym, you might be taking them on guided hikes through the wilderness, because like that shit is dope for its own vibes. And even if you're fit, it just makes you better at hiking. So I think once people get in really good shape, they're going to have this unlock of being able to go out into nature and do cool shit that they just can't. You know, the average 300-pound person is not going on a fucking 5-mile hike through the fucking Colorado wilderness for obvious reasons. I mean, you make excellent bear food. If a bear finds you, that's not really an advantage to you. So I think there's a massive pivot that many people will have to make into a very similar kind of profession, but different. And another one is, I think that there's a certain amount of doing hard things and a certain amount of just raw human movement that you have to have. And if you don't do, you're kind of getting massive cabin fever and you're pent up and you're fucking pissed. And so just suffering through super long, hard workouts is really good psychotherapy. Now, there no doubt will be many psychotherapeutic drugs that mute that response so that you actually will be able to be fit and happy and not need to beat the shit out of yourself. But there's a certain amount of challenge just because it's challenging. It sharpens your mind. It makes you healthier and all that stuff. It's not going to be a disaster because I think there's an easy solution to this. But it's easy on paper and maybe a little bit harder in practice. A lot of people are going to have to shift to finding challenge somewhere else. And that's a big deal. Right now, many of us find our challenge in fitness. But if we have fitness in a pill, maybe the challenge is pick up Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or boxing. That's fucking challenging. And if you're already in shape, that doesn't mean you can box, motherfucker. Get hit in the face a whole bunch. All of a sudden, there goes your catharsis. You might get into endurance stuff. You might get into mountain biking, 50 other things to do. But fitness isn't the only thing. Every time you go to work out because it's challenging and because it's good for you, you are not going in and helping children in need. You are not hanging out with old people at old people homes or dying fucking alone. You are not volunteering your time in the third world to help them build up the kind of structures and institutions that we have so they can have a good time. So maybe once we sort out more and more of our own problems, we can have more time and energy and desire to go out and make sense of the actual fucking world and help in a really big way. Because in one sense, when you look at gyms right now, people are doing wonderful things to their own psychology, to their physiques, to their health. But in another sense, they're just literally wasting energy moving fucking plates up and down for no goddamn reason at all. If we can get the chemicals to do all the fitness shit, we can open up ourselves to like 2 hours extra per day where you're doing anything but moving weights up and down in a fucking straight line. Which, listen, moving weights up and down in a straight line is the passion of my life. But also, there's like a lot more shit to the world that you could be doing. And I think that is something that humans are going to have to quote unquote grapple with. But it's great. It's a great problem, but nonetheless a problem and a bit of a speed bump.
Yeah, I think a lot of those questions have been pondered and asked by ancient spiritual practices, by religions, yes. Because we're going to get to a place here, maybe in our lifetime, where we're going to get everything we want. We're going to get everything we want, yep. And then we're going to be sad, and we're not going to know why. Why am I sad? I have everything. I mean, look what we did with money. We now have shelter and food, and but people are worse off than ever. So I think it's just going to force us to really look at like what gives us purpose and meaning in life. So I don't think it's going to answer some questions and solve some things, but it's not going to solve the big things. And I think it'll pose other questions. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think there's two solutions to that. One is going out into the world and making inroads on real problems instead of just fitness. I think that's a big unlock. I think just look at our fucking inner cities, for love of God. Who the fuck's cleaning it up? Nobody. Who the fuck is mentoring children if nobody in their lives to mentor them? Nobody. It's fucking, yeah, some people, it's not enough. We need 10x the number of people helping everyone out. So that's a big thing. The other thing is, this is like fucking weird, but I think it's true. Advanced pharmaceuticals that interact with your brain are 100%, many of them are here already. More of them are inevitable. You won't have to be sad because you will be pharmacologically incapable of feeling sadness. I'm going to say something fucking wacky. I always have at least one of these. There are 50 of these things on every podcast I'm on. There is no reason to think, based on first principles of how the brain works, that eventually AI and scientific researchers can't figure out how to make a drug that makes you feel like you do on a peak ecstasy high, except permanently and with no downsides and with no adaptations. That is 100% theoretically possible. So you can have a pill, maybe that's developed in 5, 7, or 10 years, that if you take it every day, you are like, do you guys have any friends that are just genetically fucking happy for no goddamn reason at all? They're just like, I broke my leg, but it's an opportunity to learn. You're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I was depressed before I broke anything. How the fuck are you doing this? They just have different brain chemistry. And there's no reason to think that all of us can't have that brain chemistry times 10 in the future. If you think that taking a pill to be ecstatic and happy and optimistic and hardworking is bad, I would love to hear why. Maybe there are some good points, but at the same time, a lot of people are going to want to take that pill. So we have pills for our body coming up. That seems straightforward. There are going to be pills for the brain coming up that deal with a lot of existential angst and all this other bullshit that might just go away after you start taking a pill. And is that really like, yeah, but you should be suffering? Like, I don't know. Should you be? Maybe there's a compelling argument against that, but I'd love to hear that.
Have you seen the Twilight Zone episode where the bank robber gets shot? Have you seen that episode before?
No, I'm not 55 years old, so I don't
Fuck off, fatty.
Yeah, well,
I haven't. What's the what is it
Sal tells it better than I do.
He gets shot, and then the guy approaches him and is like, "Hey, man, you can have anything you want." And he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he can have everything, and he's gambling, and he's winning every hand, and he's got beautiful women, he's got food, and then it fast forwards like 9 months later, and he's like, he hasn't shaved, and he's pissed off because every time he rolls a dice, he wins, and everybody agrees with him. And the guy comes back, and he's like, "Man, this sucks." He goes, "I didn't think heaven would be like this." And the guy looks at him and says, "What makes you think this is heaven?"
Oh, that's like people's concept of hell from hyper capitalist abundance. Like, having known people who went to Russian prison. I'm telling you, hell's a lot worse than fucking winning a bunch of rounds at bank fucking models.
Well,
existential angst. Like, have you ever been beaten by 5 prison guards daily for 20 years? Like, no, I guess there's levels to this. Well, I'm just going to go back to fucking the strippers. I'm just going to learn to deal with this shit.
Here's my pushback on that, because you have people who have dedicated their lives to doing what you're talking about, and they're tired, they're physiologically depressed because they're so exhausted, but they're joyful. And so you hear the spiritual leaders, Mother Teresa, they find joy, which is different than the chemical happy that we feel. So I personally think, my opinion, Mike, is what you're explaining is going to reveal hell to a lot of people. They're going to be chemically happy. In fact, I think they wrote a book about it, right? 1984 might have been one of them, or I'm not sure. It's one of those books where everybody's fed happy pills all the time. They can never feel sad, but they feel like something's missing. I think that's a much bigger question. I think it'll be an interesting experiment, but I think people are going to be, if we do get to that place, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, something's missing. I don't know what it is, but something's missing. That's my opinion.
I think joy is also chemically mediated.
Maybe.
And so if you attack the right chemical pathways, you can just have joy all the time too. Like deep, meaningful joy, just straight up. How do I know that? Ecstasy exists. Yeah. Like if you're on ecstasy, you love everyone you see as much as you've loved your mother. You really do feel that.
Do you have kids?
No, fuck no, man. They don't let a person like me with these crazy views have children. What are you nuts?
All right, then forget it. I was going to ask you a question, but yeah. No, you've been great,
kids,
Mike.
Just a dog.
It's been great talking to you, man. You're absolutely hilarious. Very, very smart. Lots of experience.
Stop.
We appreciate a lot of what you communicate on social media and other outlets, because, again, you communicate like someone who knows the science but also has the experience, and oftentimes you get one or the other, and you don't get the combination. And so your answers are nuanced, and we think you're pointing people oftentimes the right direction, besides being absolutely hilarious and entertaining. So,
stop.
Yeah, we appreciate
you guys are fucking awesome. Thank you so much.
You got it, man.
We'll have you come out here next time for sure, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, you guys are in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah. San Jose.
Yeah, fuck no. I'm never coming out there. I'm trying to step on heroin needles covered in shit.
We understand. We're not in San Francisco.
We're
in San Jose.
I like the mumbling, like,
it's a little safer here. Don't worry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good talking to you, Mike. Take it easy, man.
Peace out.
Cool.
Thank you. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. So let's say you decide to do 100 squats every single day. What happens to your body? Some pretty cool stuff.
Ooh,
let's talk about this.
You get stronger.
If somebody, thanks, you give away the first one for sure. Yeah. Actually, a lot of people, it sounds obvious, but then you have a lot of people like, well, you can't do that every day type of deal. You have to do them the right way, right? I think 100 squats all at once is probably not a good idea, but spread out throughout the entire day, you for sure will get
Well,
stronger.
you can easily overtrain if